Yardi Matrix has just published its latest national multifamily outlook, in which it projects deliveries to increase this year by 17% and robust rent recoveries in several markets. Joining us to discuss the report is Doug Ressler, Yardi Matrix's Senior Research Officer. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you very much, John.
Doug, your report sees the demand for multifamily housing as the hottest it's been since the 2008 recession. What, in Yardi's estimation, is driving that demand?
Well, a couple of things, John. First of all, it's basic economics 101 in terms of supply and demand. The housing supply, as everyone knows, has been, very dampened. And so people are looking for housing. And what's happening is that they can't either afford or find housing that's available, so they rent instead. The other thing that's happening too is the pandemic drove a lot of the top end discretionary upper mid-range type of folks out of higher type apartments. And now with the pandemic weakening, you're seeing that influx of people back into those apartments. So the demand is increasing and will continue to increase. And last but not least is that the millennial generation, which should be out buying houses, is being priced out of the market in a lot of cases. So they're continuing to rent longer, backfilled, of course, by the incoming Z generation.
Through mid-year of this year, nearly 864,000 units were in the construction pipeline. What factors are determining whether a given market can absorb the multifamily housing that's being delivered there?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, we watch the absorption rates, and the folks that use our services look at the lease ups and the absorption, especially of the new properties coming online. They look at the competitive environment around the new properties, and they look for the employment and economic diversity in the area to be able to build it. In other words, the population, where we see a lot of it is occurring in urban suburban splits, people call it exurbs, things like that. So we see that there's a lot of that going on with the jockeying in terms of the new supply chains, remote location warehousing locations that are supporting things, along with the industrial technology, data centers, things like that.
Your report also raises some doubts about whether projects in certain metros like Miami and San Francisco will be able to lease up because of oversupply or a number of other factors. Is this simply a function of supply and demand, or are there other dynamics that are coming into play here?
Well, certainly the primary indicator is supply and demand. What we see is that we believe that the robustness of the housing, rental housing economy will continue. And, there are some, like you say, gray edges around the clouds, one of which is in terms of the cost of materials and also the labor available to complete and finish properties in the areas. But right now we continue to see that it has taken a little bit of a slight downturn. The Delta variant could be a possible inherent risk, but right now we don't see that as too much of a big hurdle.
One of the biggest surprises when I read your report was how you found strong demand in tertiary markets like Northwest Arkansas, which of course is Walmart's home base, and the Florida Southwest coast. What does this suggest to you? I mean, what is this information telling you right now?
Well, we see a lot of, in terms of the demographic, not only with the disease, but what we see is people boomers, especially in Southwest Florida, who want to get out of their, owned home and move to a climate and retirement that has a social cohort that they're looking for. And they don't want necessarily the maintenance of a home anymore, but they would like to rent, but they would like to have a lot of the amenities and, feeling of a house. And so we see a lot of that that's going on. Also within the tertiary markets, we see a lot of the single family housing. Back to the point I made previously about the fact of lack of affordability, the tertiary markets have a cost of land that allows for the building of single family rentals a lot more readily, and it can price for an entry home for young millennials or Zs.
You brought up single family rentals, and I've been hearing a lot from builders lately about their interest in build to rent. I was just
Mhm.
talking to a builder in Denver a couple days ago about this very topic, and Yardi doesn't really address this specifically in its report. But do you have any comments about how the multifamily demand is likely to be affected by the build to rent phenomenon?
Well, Yardi, just for clarification, Yardi Matrix, we do support single family rental. It's a separate product.
Okay,
And we're beginning to flesh out that product and talk to folks, subscribers about it. Uh, it is a parallel complementary product. In other words, multifamily. I don't really, to answer your question directly, I don't really see the multifamily business really being impacted because of the lack of available housing in general.
okay.
And I think that the demographic as to the single family rental and things like that really plays to the upper end of those that would like to find a house per se, or a house like that have larger families. Certainly a Z type initial entry person that might be living in the Bronx or Queens or someplace like that probably would be looking for more of a multifamily rental type of environment.
Mhm. Your report paints a generally positive picture about the outlook for multifamily, but are there any red flags that you're keeping an eye on that might impede that growth?
Well, right now we think that there are some concerns about inflationary pressures and what the loan origination and underwriting would be, 2, 3, 4 years out. Also, the saturation point, like you mentioned before. Those are small considerations right now, but we're certainly looking at them.
Hmm. How is the capital market for multifamily these days?
Well, the cap rates that have sustained fairly well, and it has decreased somewhat, a little bit, but a few points. But right now, we still see it strong. It's the lowest risk, one of the best investment next to industrial right now in terms of commercial real estate.
God help us if Amazon ever gets into multifamily housing, huh?
You never know; they're in healthcare right now.
That's right. Doug, thanks for taking the time to speak with me. It's nice talking to you again.
You bet, John. Thank you very much. Have a
Have
great
a,
day.
have a good day. And this is John Caulfield from Building Design and Construction. Thanks for joining us.